Hello everyone, it's Nina and welcome back to my channel. If you have been on the internet at all since December, you probably have seen everyone's obsession with the TV show Heated Rivalry, which is a gay hockey romance show that is based off of a gay hockey romance book of the same name. Since having watched that show, I did read all of the books in that series as part of a series reading vlog, which I'll definitely link up above. But clearly, I did not get enough. I felt like, I bet I can read even more gay sports romances. So that's what we're going to be doing in today's video. I kind of perused the books I already had on my TBR, the ones I could get easily from my library, the ones I could easily get from Hoopla, and I think we have a pretty good list of books to start out with. I don't actually know what of the books I've written down I will end up reading for this video, but I figured we could at least start with the ones that I'm currently reading, as well as the ones I think I'm going to get to next. So with that intro out of the way, let's get right into talking about the TBR for this video. The first book we're going to talk about is one that I thought would kind of ease me in to reading gay sports romances that aren't part of the Game Changer series, and that is to read a gay hockey romance that is also written by Rachel Reed. And that book I ended up choosing is Time to Shine. This is a standalone gay hockey romance that follows our main characters Casey and Langdon. Langdon is on a, I want to say minor league hockey team that's kind of a farm team where the standout players on that team kind of will move up to the major hockey league teams. And that's basically what has happened. Langdon gets a call that the backup goalie for the Calgary team is out for a couple months and they have to have Langdon come in to be the new backup goalie. When Langdon gets there, he meets all of the new team members and immediately catches the eye of one of the star forwards, Casey Hicks. Casey is incredibly outgoing, super friendly, very golden retriever / himbo type. He also very clearly has some form of undiagnosed ADHD because he's super talkative, super all over the place. And he invites Langdon to live in his house with him because he previously had some other roommates that were on the team that eventually moved out and got their own places. And Casey is very lonely and also kind of scared of the dark and being in this big house all by himself. Langdon is very quiet, kind of comes across as being very icy, but really it's just because he's very socially awkward and doesn't know how to make friends very easily. I really like their dynamic as kind of the cousin to the Grumpy Sunshine, where the archetype is then the quiet, icy one, and then the super bubbly, never shuts up one. I'm pretty far into reading this book. I am about 60% of the way through, I think. It was a pretty slow burn for the first half of the book, and only now have they begun to confess their feelings for one another and realize that they want to be maybe more than friends. However, they are taking their relationship very slow. This book is kind of a good Christmas book because it takes place all around the holidays. And as part of the plot line, Langdon's parents is coming to visit him. And he kind of wants to keep his very new relationship on the back burner since he never came out to them and doesn't know if he should initiate telling them that Casey is his boyfriend when they've barely discussed their relationship at all. Overall, I am really enjoying this book. I think it's very fun. I really like the character of Casey. I think he's so funny. He's got a very, very distinctive personality. I will have to say, now that I've read 7 books from Rachel Reed, focusing on 6 different couples overall, all of the characters are very distinctive, so nothing feels boring or just a retread of one of her previous books. I also think their dynamic together is really cute and also super interesting of being kind of a combination of them being currently teammates, and the rest of the team seems kind of supportive in theory of them eventually getting together, since a lot of them are kind of poking fun at Casey for having a crush on Langdon. But at the same time, Langdon is only the temporary backup goalie, and eventually when the actual backup goalie is done getting medical treatment, he will eventually come in and Langdon will go back down to his minor league team. So there's kind of a potential end date for the relationship that they will have to work through for the end of the book. So I'm really interested in seeing how that's going to go. I'm really hoping it's not going to be some pointless third act breakup. It feels like they have enough stuff going on that they don't need to have a breakup, especially if they're barely going to start officially dating for the last half of the book. So that is the first book I have been currently reading and will continue to read for this video. And then I do have one more book that I think I'm going to try and read for this video. There's a couple other ones I have kind of on the back burner, but this is one that I can both get through Hoopla, as well as it's a book on my physical TBR. And that is You Should Be So Lucky by Cat Sebastian. This is really a book that is combining my 2 niche interests, in that it is both a queer historical romance as well as being a queer sports romance. This is set in the 1960s and is a romance between a baseball player and a news reporter. I don't know anything else besides that. I'm pretty sure this is also technically the second book in a series, but I'm pretty sure you can read them out of order and maybe some of the characters just kind of bounce in and out as side characters, because I'm pretty sure the first book is between 2 news reporters. Anyway, I've read a lot of Cat Sebastian books. I really, really like her writing style. I think she's very fun, a lot of fluff, a lot of like hurt comfort in her romances. And I'm surprised it's taking me so long to read this series. I think for a while I was both like not interested in like the time period and also not interested in sports romances. But I figured this video is like the perfect time to read this book. So this is another one that is on the docket for me to start pretty soon. So that's a look at some of the books that we have on our TBR. I feel like this intro has become incredibly long, so I'm going to cut it here. I might pop in a little bit later as we read more of these books and see if I'm going to add any more books to the TBR. But for right now, I am going to get into reading more of Time to Shine, and I'll probably come back to you once I finish this book, as well as probably started another book on our TBR. So let's get right on in to the reading vlog. Okay, so I thought I would give you my next update. I have now finished Time to Shine. I'm going to give this 4.5 stars. I really, really liked this. I think I said this during my last update, but I really, really like Casey. I just love a messy bisexual king. I also really liked his and Landon's dynamic. It definitely felt a little like Casey fell first, but Landon fell harder. I feel like also their third act breakup, kind of them trying to navigate being a long distance couple, was very believable. And their eventual like reunion scene when Casey is committed to showing Landon that he's willing to make their long-distance relationship work was very cute and very believable. I also saw a comment on the Storygraph when I was looking at other people's reviews that someone felt that the epilogue was really corny. And while it definitely was them moving a little fast, I thought it was really cute, and also I feel like made a lot of sense for Casey's character. So I really liked the epilogue and kind of like the developments with the relationship there. I am definitely a little sad that this is like kind of a standalone and there isn't going to be any other books set in this universe, because I feel like I did bond decently well with the rest of the Calgary team, and I honestly would be totally fine seeing more books set in this universe. But I'm really, really glad I ended up reading this one. I think it was the perfect transition out of the other Rachel Reid books that I had been reading into more like general sports romances. So with that in mind, I actually have read the entirety of the next book I want to talk about for this vlog, and that is You Should Be So Lucky by Cat Sebastian. This is a gay baseball romance set in 1960 that follows our main characters Mark and Eddie. Mark is a writer at a newspaper, and I think the newspaper company overall is like the setting for the first book in this companion series. Anyway, he gets tasked to write about a new, recently traded baseball star named Eddie. Eddie kind of had like a public meltdown when he found out he was being traded to this pretty shitty New York team, and he feels like very uncomfortable and alone in New York. Plus, he has kind of like completely trashed his batting average and is just playing really badly. The two of them end up meeting. They start becoming friends. They find out that the other one is queer, and then around like 60% of the way through the book, they start hooking up. Mark is like convinced that him and Eddie can't be together because of Eddie's career and him being like so in the spotlight. And Mark just like doesn't really want to hide the fact that he is queer. I think I'm going to give this book 4 stars. I just like really, really love Cat Sebastian's writing style. I can't even really like fully describe it, but I feel like she takes a lot of time to like really justify the character's emotions and uses like very complex but emotionally grounding like metaphors to help you get into each of the characters' headspaces. And I also feel like she's very genuinely funny and like really good at banter. It can make it feel like things take forever for the story to like move along in terms of the narrative, but I feel like for the sake of the relationship development, it's very important to help you actually like care about the two main characters. Like I just said, I think I'm going to give this a 4 stars, but it's kind of like more on like a low end of a 4 stars, closer to a 3.5. There just were a couple scenes that I really, really liked that kept it from being any lower. But I don't necessarily know if this is a book that's going to kind of stick with me in the long term. I feel like my main issue is I really like the two of them separately as characters. I think Mark is really, really funny. I just love that he's like so no nonsense and kind of like an eternal bitch. And then Eddie is maybe like a little bit more of like a himbo. At the same time, like pretty straightforward and very much like a calming presence to some of Mark's like neuroses. There were quite a few like really cute scenes of the two of them, and I do think they have, again, like very good banter between them. I just am not like 100% sold on this book overall. I guess I liked a lot of the like side stuff going on and more of the like bigger thematic elements of like you can kind of pick yourself up and move on past any like disaster that comes in your life, because both Mark and Eddie are like dealing with big things that feel somewhat insurmountable, but part of life is just like realizing that time is always going to move on and you will be able to pick yourself up and move on from those things. I really liked Mark's relationship with this older sports writer George, who kind of becomes like a surrogate father figure for him. I don't really know how to describe this, and I don't even know if it's necessarily like a problem I was having with the book, but I do think it maybe took me out of the story a little bit. Basically, all of the smut scenes, even though they're technically open door, there was like basically like no mention of anything explicit going on, and it kind of felt like Cat Sebastian was going out of her way to avoid any language that could be even remotely explicit. It just felt like we were walking on eggshells throughout these smut scenes, which I don't know why that was a choice for this book, especially because Cat Sebastian has been explicit in some of her other published books. Even ones that are traditionally published, I just feel like gave a weird vibe for some of those scenes that made it like a little bit less enjoyable. I guess I kind of prefer it when it's like one or the other. Either fully like have it be a closed door scene, or if you're going to have it be open door, like use the word dick. It just feels really weird to not have that be mentioned at all. It just felt like a little wishy-washy and kind of gave a weird vibe for those particular scenes in this book. Anyway, I did really enjoy this still, and I'm definitely going to read the first book in the companion series. I just ended up reading this one first, obviously because it is a queer sports romance, and it's one of the books I had on my physical TBR, but I will probably pick up the other book in the series at some point in the near future as well. So for you, it's probably been like 2 seconds, but for me, it's actually been like 2 weeks since I last did an update for this video. I just decided that instead of moving on to a third book, I'm going to end the vlog after having read only 2. Mostly because over the course of the last 3 weeks or so, as I was finishing up You Should Be So Lucky, I kind of moved out of my sports romance mood, and instead of forcing myself to read a book that I'm not really in the mood for, that maybe would cause me to give this book a lower rating just because I'm not really super in the mood for it, I figured I would just like cut off the vlog here, having read 2 books that I did very much enjoy. So as a little recap for this video, we read Time to Shine by Rachel Reed, which I gave 4.5 stars. I thought this one was really cute. Wish there was more set in this universe because I feel like I really grew to love the characters, but I think it was a really, really cute and fun one-off hockey romance. Whether you've read or enjoyed the Game Changer series or not, I think this one is really fun to check out. And then we also read You Should Be So Lucky by Cat Sebastian. I did like this. I feel like Cat Sebastian's books always have a really good, solid heart and message to them. However, I definitely don't think I like this one as much as Cat Sebastian's other books. I wasn't just like as obsessed with the romance as I have been for some of her other couples. I like the characters both individually, and I could understand where their relationship was going, but at the same time, I just, didn't have that special spark that made me love them as much as some of her other characters. So this one ended up being 4 stars. And yeah, that is going to be it for this video. I definitely have found that I do really like reading queer sports romances, so there definitely will be sequels to this video of me reading other ones in the future. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I'd love to hear your thoughts or recommendations for other queer sports romances I should check out in the comments down below. Otherwise, you can also follow me on the Storygraph if you'd like to see my reading updates in real time, as well as on my Bookstagram, which are both linked in the description. Anyway, that's going to be it for me. I hope you guys all have a wonderful day, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye!